Nothing in life and in business works without relationship. I used the 4 keys, and in 60 days, I recovered $6 million. This is a true story. This is what launched Collect the Cash. The unthinkable happened. The CEO says, "Let's come downstairs and have a chat." If you've ever done salespeople used to get commissions. Our people like me, contracts and AR, and we get a bonus. So I'm thinking, I'm about to get a nice bonus. I like $6 million. This is too much.
You about to get paid because they're about to show you the money. Hello there, and welcome to Skyman and the Bug. I'm the Bug, and that is
the Skyman.
We are here to build relationships, technology, and work on the many wonders of being a business owner and a nutcase. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you listening to us, laughing with us, and taking the journey with us as we build businesses and relationships. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Skyman and the Bug. I am, of course, the Bug and
the Skyman.
You don't have to get all expressive like and Skyman. All right, well, we get together.
We're supposed to have fun, man.
I know, but you all were like delayed and got all weighty and stuff like that. But anyway, it is my honor to be here.
Emphasis.
I mean, you kind of got animated, kind of like you had to like charge yourself up and kind of like, I got to kind of work towards getting that out.
Dee wasn't complaining about it.
No, I tell you what would happen. Well, it is great to be with you once again for the Skyman and Bug podcast, where we get together and we talk about relationships, tech, and business, and the fundamental all kinds of problems that we find both in the government sector, but we also find in the civilian sector. And one of my favorite movies, not favorite movies, I would say one of those favorite taglines from a movie, but with Tom Maypotter and Cuba Gooding Jr. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Yes, it's Tom Cruise. Is show me the money. And when you're in business and you're thinking about, you're in business. Yes, you're in there to make money generally, or there's a transaction somewhere. No matter if you're a nonprofit or whatever, you're going to ask somebody to pay you some stuff. Well, Dee Bowden is an expert in showing people how to get the money without pissing your customer off.
No. Before we start that, I need you to do your best Cuba Gooding Jr.
Show me the money! Show me the
money! And I also have to do a course correct. My last name is Bowden.
Bowden, thank you. Thank you. Correction. You see how I screw stuff up? It is all what we do. We are moving and we're learning as we go, and we will screw it up. So I met Dee through LinkedIn, and it was through another relationship, through another veteran and the ecosystem, in the podcast ecosystem. And we had a number of conversations about what are some of the challenges that businesses have. Seriously, if your business is like, hey, if you're just a regular commerce business and you're having a storefront or something like that, that's one thing. People pay you, you buy your product or service, they're out the door, you could. But what happens when you have a net 30, net 60, net 120, net whenever I'll get around to pay you? And there are a couple of companies and concepts that people get around to net whenever I get around to pay you. Now, that might make sense to some people, but if you got people to pay, I'll pay you when I get around to it, does not make sense. Now, being the author of Collect the Cash, you can find it on Amazon, and she's. I'll let her tell a little bit more about her story, because I can go into this long, boring resume stuff, but it's better when the person tells what's their secret sauce long before I screw it up. So, Dee, take it away.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Nikkei, for the opportunity to be on the podcast. So, as Nikkei said, show me the money. Yeah, that's usually what people either tell me, show me the money, let me secure the bag, all the things. So who am I? So I'm Dee Bowden. I'm the author and creator of Collect the Cash. I'm originally from Boston. I now live in the great state of Maryland. My fun facts are I love smooth jazz, great wines, both red and white, and I love Ferris wheels. And of course, everybody wants to know, so where did Collect the Cash come from? Well, it started like this. About 20 years ago, I used to work for a small IT company outside of Boston, where I'm from. Both of you have worked in both corporate and government. You know how it is. Welcome aboard. Here's your cubicle. Here's your office. And here's your box. And here's your plan. In my case, it was, hey, Dee, welcome aboard. We've got a collections team. We've got a space for you to sit and work. And then we've got a list of $8 million of outstanding invoices that we are owed. I'm like, y'all did what? Like, they sold IT services, software licenses, all the things to commercial and the government. I'm like, so y'all sold this and y'all can't collect it? Nope. Y'all have a team. Yep. And your resume says you know how to collect the cash. I said, okay. So I'm a person of faith. I said my quick prayer. Then I got to work. I got my 4 keys, which are problem solving, answering the question of what had happened was because every unpaid invoice has a story, and you got to find out the story behind why haven't paid you. Then there's customer service. Both of you both know that really, really well because customer service matters internally and externally. I believe in expressing gratitude. One of the first things I said before I started my story was thank you for the opportunity to be on the podcast. And then you have to build relationships. No, nothing in life and in business works without relationships. You can't. Nobody is a man or a woman or an island unto themselves. So I used the 4 keys, and in 60 days, I recovered $6 million. This is a true story. This is what launched Collect the Cash. So 60 days, I'm a part-time collector. I work Monday through Friday, 4 to 8. I collect $6 million, and then the unthinkable happened. The CEO says, let's come downstairs and have a chat. Now, if you've ever done sales people usually get commissions. AR people like me, contracts and AR, we get a bonus. So I'm thinking, I'm about to get a nice bonus. I collect $6 million. I'm like, this is too much.
You about to get paid because they're about to show you the money.
We're about to get these coins. So we come downstairs and the CEO says, hey, thank you. So I have something I have to share. And when they start off with I have something to share, you're like, dun, 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 here we go. So the share was, hey, we've made an executive decision and we're going to close the company today. And we're letting all y'all go 2 months before the holiday season. After I collect my $6 million, the rest of my team collects their money, and then we got let go 2 months before the holiday season. You know what's crazy? That happened 20 years ago this month. And and there are still times, even when I tell the story after all this time, it's like you ever had something in life that really jarred you, but you go, I don't. It's kind of like Scarlett O'Hara, as God is my witness, I don't want to end up here again. That was that moment for me, and I was like, okay. Fast forward to COVID. So I love theater. So when Broadway shuts down, Broadway, obviously has all these theater houses. None of the shows are happening. None of the sales are happening. So I'm wondering, so nobody's talking about the fact that people have had these contracts with other businesses. Services are not getting paid for, and nobody's talking about it. And so my book coach actually challenged me to tell my story about how much money I've recovered, both in the private sector and in the government sector. And in the government sector, I've recovered over $100 million. And so she was like, you have a why, which you don't want to see another small or medium-sized business go out of business, especially if they've got contracts and suppliers and vendors that they have to pay, and they've got dreams of growing the business and doing all these great things. So she's like, write this book and teach us how to do this and teach us how to have this conversation without screwing up the very thing that we have to maintain, which is the client and the relationship, so we can actually get repeat business, do more work, get paid. And so as Nikkei said, I wrote my book and I shared it on Enrique's podcast, Develop the Leader Within. And he was like, we don't talk about this. I said, I know, because, when people think about money, it gives them the heebie-jeebies. They're like, I'd rather do anything than have to go back to a client and say, why haven't you paid me? But to your point of show me the money is, collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. And if, you get the sale part, that's great. And we celebrate all that. But if you don't get paid for after you do the sale, you're not going to have any money. You're not going to have a business. And you sure are not going to be able to pay your people. And you can't grow. And so the reason I talk about this is because I say sales and AR go together. And I say it this way. As confident as you would have asked for the sale or asked for the contract or asked for the business, you have to be just as confident to ask for your money. And you have to do it in such a way that you don't screw up the relationship, number one. Number two, do it in a way where you are solutions-based. Not just give me my money, but it's like, okay, how do we end up here? How do we course correct if we made a mistake? And then how do we fix this so we don't end up here again? And then continue to build the relationship so you can actually get repeat business. And so that's how I got here.
Yeah. So for solutions for our company, I'm the one who makes those calls. So, and for the most part, I've done a good job maintaining relationships and getting paid from the customers. Some of them take a little longer.
Yes. Yeah.
But for the most part, our past, debt to us, we've been able to collect, and I think our past due accounts payable at the beginning of the year is like 80 something. It's down to like 18.
Mm-hmm.
So, we made a big dent.
So I wanted to ask Dee, why do you think people are so scared when they have a golden, customer? The customer is the one who keeps them alive, yet the customer is holding them from growing, from adding on more staff. By, in our case, buying technology is going to propel their company. way beyond what they're doing now. Is thrive versus just surviving. Why do you think people, in your experience, both from the government side, because I know you worked for the Coast Guard and other areas, why do you think it's so hard for individuals, be they government members or in the private sector or publicly traded companies, to ask people for money that they are owed for goods or services?
Some of it is just straight fear. It's just straight fear because if let's take for example, if you're a small business and you finally got your first major client, your first major contract, you done all the hoops, you done all the presentations, you done checked off all the things, and the last thing you want to do is go, oh crap, they owe me money, but I just got them as a client, and I really need this contract to work because I need future business, and so there's fear. There's also just a lack of confidence. I feel like, when you talk about getting the sale, there's a set of confidence skills that go with that because, you're presenting, you're sure that you can do this. But when you have to go back and do the follow-up, especially if there's been mistakes made or balls have been dropped or something like happened, they're like, ooh, and you didn't fix it. I think the reason people are afraid to go back and ask is because, number one, they've either dropped the ball, they've made a mistake, and even if your client, gave you grace and let you fix it, the fact that you are nervous that I have to go back and ask them for the money, even though you have a contract and that you have deliverables and you've done it, there's a lack of confidence, and I think there's fear, there's lack of confidence, and sometimes there's just shame. People have money issues and money stories that play all the time, and it shows up. But it's the thing is, like I've said earlier, as confident as you were to ask for that sale or ask for that contract, you have to be just as confident to ask for the money because sales and AR, they go together. And when you shift your mindset from being afraid to, no, I'm providing a service, I'm providing a product, I have a contract, I have a deliverable, I'm going to invoice, and I'm expecting to get paid, your conversation shifts. So it's when you shift your mindset from not being afraid, but knowing that this is a part of business. It's the sale, it's the contract, it's the deliverable, it's invoicing, and it's getting paid. It's all those 5 things. And if you make a mistake, I feel like this. It's really simple. Apologize for it, course correct, and just don't do it again. It's not that difficult.
Makes sense.
At least in my world.
Makes sense.
You want to say something, Josh?
So at Solutions Foot, we have a tradition of when we get paid from client, we do the Friday dance.
Yes, celebration. Absolutely. That's one of my things. I believe that you as soon as you get paid, you need to celebrate. And I also think when I talked about my 4 keys, which is problem solving, customer service, express gratitude, and relationship building. Express gratitude is, first of all, the company that chose you, usually on your invoice it says, "Thank you for your business." And that to me, if people say, "Oh, you make a big deal about that," I'm like, yeah, because they have a choice with who they choose to do business with, and the fact that they selected you, yeah. And then usually right now it's October, so in about a month or so you're gonna get holiday cards, and it's gonna say, "Hey Josh, hey Nikkei, thank you so much for being a client or a customer of da 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 da, and we wish you a great holiday season, and we look forward to doing business with you in the following year." That's gratitude, but it's also relationship building because they know that you have a choice with who you do business with as well. And I think they go together.
So on every invoice, I write a personal note to the client. You're able to write a note when you send out the invoice.
Yep.
Everyone I do a personal thing. Thank you, and be well. But always building relationships.
Thank you for confirming what I have been doing for years. Thank you for here's a live example, y'all, of what I've been telling y'all for years. This actually works.
Yeah.
So the follow-up question was because one of our premises for our podcast is relationship, maintaining, building, expanding your relationships. Mm-hmm. Because you're in a subject that's almost like a touchy subject. I don't want to ask the person for the money. And I once talked to a real estate agent that said, once the sale is over, we scatter like rats off a ship. I was like, so how do you get repeat customer? They're like, we don't care. They'll find us or not, but we scatter like rats on a ship. Once the sale is over, you aren't going to talk to them ever again. I was like, dang, that sucks. But in your case, how do you build the relationship? Because the idea of going to a premier customer that keeps the lights on, or maybe you have 10, 20, 30 different customers, in various grades to keep the lights on, to keep you, in the right side of the ledger, without going and disclosing any proprietary stuff. How do you go in to because somebody might say, okay, Dee, I have the customer that is the guy or gal company who makes makes the heartbeat of this organization. It sucks that it's so vulnerable, that we're so interlocked. But how do you go into that relationship with you're an outsider to go into that customer, to be the intermediary between the customer and the provider, to say, hey, we good, we like you, but you owe us $20,000, you owe us $100,000, you owe us $500,000, and here we are 6 months later, and you don't even tell us when you're gonna pay it, kind of stuff.
Right. Well, my approach is through solutions. I've done this work a long time, and I've obviously done it for the Coast Guard and other government agencies. And I've learned that when you approach it from a solutions base, when I have to come into an agency and I have to untangle hundreds of thousands of dollars of say contracts that have been sitting on the books, and there's tons of excess funds. I have to come from the solution base of, okay, how do we get here? Then I have to find who the players are, and I have to do just like we're doing today. I have to have a conversation. I have to get the story. I kind of make it fun and do it tongue in cheek only. So what happened was, tell me the story, because behind every situation, especially financial, there's always a story, because the story leaves clues. And I'm like, okay, so tell me what happened. How do we get here? And then how do we, because it's not just me to come in and fix this issue. I need to know, what are we going to do? How are we going to uncover the problems that came up? How are we going to course correct this? And then what do we need to change in terms of this? Is it a system problem? For example, does everybody on the team know how this particular customer likes their invoices? No, they never explained it to us. Okay, well, that's problem number one. So let's see, we got to go back and read the contract and read the information. They want their original copy plus 4 additional copies plus receipts, blah blah blah. So does everybody have a sticky? Everybody have a whiteboard? Does everybody have a note saying this is how they like this? If you're dealing with the government, do you know, for example, if you're dealing with DoD, do you know which DFAS office pays your invoice? Oh, you mean I had to read that part? Yeah, that's a concept. Imagine, but yeah, you need to know which DFAS office pays your invoice and how does your core like their information. It's the details for me. And I basically, the way I do it this way, because I say it like this. You remember back in school we used to have to solve for X?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's my approach. My approach is, how are we solving for X? And the solution is using problem solving and customer service and express gratitude and relationship building, basically the softer side of AR, to uncover what's wrong. And then once we do that, it's to give you the tools to say, okay, this is what happened. This is how you missed all these steps. Are you open to making a change? Number one, because they might be like, Dee, I just want you to come and collect my money. I don't want to learn nothing. All right, fine. I'm project based. Fine. Just get it done. Show me the money. We're out. Great. But if you don't want to end up here again, are you open to a different approach of doing this? And are you open to at least 90 days? 90 days. You can do anything for 90 days. And if it doesn't work for you, great. Go back to your regularly scheduled program and do it the way you've done it. But if you don't make the changes, you're going to end up here again and again and again. And that's how I do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I took a similar approach to approaching a big client who, had been at the same billing rate for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I gave them 6 months notice that their rate was going to go up because of expenses and all that kind of stuff. And because we already have that relationship, they appreciated the knowledge, and they even said, "Hey, we thought we were going to go up in billing 2 years ago. We were grateful that you kept where you were." And they realized that next year they're probably going to go up again, mm-hmm. and we'll figure out a level base for the future. But because we started this conversation 6 months prior, they were great with it.
I think Josh touched on something just there. With that example, which obviously is more personal than anything. Thank you, Josh, for giving us something to segue into. When do you, in your approach, and as a consultant and as an outsider, and sometimes you might be brought on as I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for you for this time period, for whatever, because they might have those problems going on and on and on. They really do need somebody to kind of help them to do this all the time. When do you broach the conversation? Because I think a lot of companies may have difficulty knowing when it is quote unquote safe to increase their rates. Like Josh says, we thought you were going to do this 2 years ago. Now, if you think about that from a concept, and you're in a company that has millions of dollars or whatever revenue, and you've been shortchanging it about $500,000 a year, not to say this is what happened in the past. I'm just saying, when do you start that conversation when you know? I mean, granted, there are forces that are outside of your, tariffs. I mean, let's just throw that out there. You don't have any control over that, so you got to raise it somewhere. But outside of those exterior forces, just natural growth and natural expenses that come on board, when do you breach the conversation with the customer to say, you know what, brother? You know what, sister? We're going to have to go on up like the Jeffersons a little bit more just because, things are getting a little more expensive on our side.
Well, I would say the way, from a government perspective, or just I think just a decent business perspective. Perspective. One, if your contract is let's say it's a 2-year contract, I would say at the end of it, get in there, do really well for the first 6 months. But before the end of the first year, it would be, can we have a conversation? And I'd like to share these are my concerns, or this is what I would like to bring to the table, and just kind of begin to test the water. Because what you don't want to do is they got you at this rate, and you just decide on your own, I'm just going to raise my rates, and I'm not telling my customer. Number one, that's not good for business. Number two, I think out of integrity, you ought to at least get in there. Let's say the contract is 2 years. Like I said, 6 months in, do a great job, build the rapport, solve the problem, bring great results. Before the end of the first year, I would be asking for a 30-minute phone call and say, this is what I'm considering. I'm looking to raise my rates from this to this. Before we wrap up this first year, I want to make you aware of this, that this is coming, and so that you can plan accordingly. Because they may be like, well, we weren't planning on you raising your rates for 2 years. We were expecting it to be this. But I think it's just a conversation. You bring it up, you let them know this is what you're planning to do. Let them respond, and obviously, if the response is not well received, that's a note to go, okay, don't mess this up. Stay the course. Stay with the rates that you told them. Do a great job. Get a good review. Get hopefully good referrals to your other clients, and then your new clients, you can raise it with them. But don't mess with this relationship. I think people forget that part.
That's why I started 6 months prior and having the conversation, and they, since they're a bigger client of ours, they appreciated the hand-holding approach.
I'm so enjoying this, Josh. I so appreciate you confirming what I've been doing, because of course I do this for a living and I've done it a long time. But it's refreshing to have somebody else say, "Oh yeah, I figured that out as well," and it actually works. Because of course, I tell my story and people are like, "Oh yeah, that's great," but so who else does it like that? I'm like, well, you know what? There's lots of us that do it like that. You don't see us because most of us are, we're working. We're not on camera or on video telling these stories. But we've also have learned the importance of building a relationship. Because here's the thing: until you build that relationship, and until you solve the problem, and until you bring value to your clients, they're number one, they're not going to rehire you, and they're for sure not going to refer you to their network of people.
That is correct. Well, Dee, it's been a great to chat with you on our podcast. I know, we try to keep them as, with your subject knowledge, and we may have to ask you back just to talk strictly on the government side, because I think there's value there. Now, granted, the government has its ebbs and flows when they like you, they don't like you. I mean, depending on what department you are, whoever's in administration might like you or don't like you, and they just cancel your contract or just don't pay you the money. Again, I'm just throwing words out there, but there's a technical term for what happens. Being able to talk in that understanding to get folks who we interact with, because on the software side, we interact with both providers and the government side. So we can see both sides of the coin, but absolutely, helping our audience understand, before you get in bed with the government, you need to understand some things that you're not accustomed to, that if you've dealt strictly in commercial space, that the government is not like that. They don't play like everybody else. And they're the federal government, different than the state. They play at a whole different level. And I mean, what you going to do? You don't have much of recourse sometimes if they don't roll the way you want them to roll. So
that's very true.
If somebody wanted to get a copy of your book or interact with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, first of all, thanks again for the opportunity. If anything that I've shared with you resonates with you, please get a copy of Collect the Cash from www.collectthecash.biz/book. It would be my honor to actually sign it and send it to you. So again, www.collectthecash.biz/book. I'm on LinkedIn. Look me up at Dee Bowden on LinkedIn, and we can connect on LinkedIn and have a conversation.
Thank you very much. Well,
So hold on. Before they go, Dee, I want one. Show me the money. Your best one.
Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
I think that'll do. Well, thank you very much, Dee. Thank you, fellow nutcases out there, business owners, technocrats, and nutcases like Josh, who I have no idea how I partnered up with this. I could say some other words, but I'm not. They're all fun. I'm just joking about that. But you've been listening to, obviously, Skyman and the Bug here on not NBC, which I was doing some joking. I don't want to get sued by NBC saying on NBC. We're not NBC. But it's been an honor to be here with our, I think it's like our second podcast that we're doing. And as we continue, if you have any guests that you'd like to see or hear from on our show, we'd be happy to entertain that idea. And we do a little bit of kind of a background, like I've talked with Dee for a couple of sessions before we got it. And then from there, we move forward. So thank you very much for being here. And I thank you for listening to another episode of Skyman and the Bug. You've been listening to
The Skyman
and the Bug. We appreciate you being here. Join us again for another episode of Skyman and the Bug. And if you have any questions, reach out to us either on LinkedIn, Facebook, and other places that you just try to find us.
Take care.
Bye.